What's this? No way! They're finally gonna finish the Puzzle Vision saga after a full year! I can't wait to see what they do.
3 days later.
I just wanted to make a good TV show.
Hello Internet, welcome to SMG4 Theory. I'm your host Jack, and oh boy, we need to talk about the Puzzle Vision movie. Now, I don't want to sound rude to the team that put countless hours into this project. Hell, I love the animation, and the jokes made me smile. But I just can't get over how underwhelming it felt. Like, there were various dangling plot threads that were introduced over the course of the saga, but they weren't even given a mention in the finale itself. However, I guess it is our job to sort out these things, so here I am. So today, I'm going to take a step back and look towards one of the biggest mysteries that SMG4 has left completely ambiguous to its future involvement in the story. That's right, today, I'm talking about the mysteries behind Peach's castle. However, to start this theory, we'll need to have some context. So, let's go back about a year or so, to the events of It's Gotta Be Perfect. Peach's castle, the main location where the cast would start most of their adventures, and also being SMG4's house. The castle was also inhabited by dozens of toads, including Toadsworth, and of course, the princess herself. It was overall a good place to hang out and live. However, it all went downhill when SMG4 tried to make the perfect video at all costs. This unfortunately led to the events that transpired on Mario Day 2023, where the entire castle was destroyed by this thing. Okay, look, I know this is supposed to be a product of the demon keyboard and all, but let's be honest. This abomination looks like one of the monsters from Half-Life. I'd still hit though. Anyways, after this, we didn't really hear much about the state of the castle until about 4 months later in the SMG4 episode, Let's Go Visit Peach, where we see the remains of the castle spread across a cavern, with Peach being a full-on Skillet fan.
I must confess that I feel like a monster. I hate what I've become.
And that's the end of the recap. Now, when looking at the state of the castle after it descended deep underneath the Mushroom Kingdom, that just makes me curious on how deep it actually is. And to do that, we must use... In this scene, we can see Mario falling to a small structure and then falling again into the hole. The cast's fall time was approximately 1 minute and 16 seconds, and accounting for the Earth's gravitational pull, 9.807 meters per second square, we can calculate the depth of the hole with this formula. 1/2 times the gravitational pull of Earth times square. No, not that times square. Like, you know, why do I have to always get the bloody stupid scripts with the stupid puns? Like, are you kidding me? Why is it always me? Anyway, with this formula, we can calculate that the cast fell a whopping 28,308 meters. But that obviously can't be right. It's more than double the depth of the Mariana Trench. Well, that's because it's not fully right. You see, we also need to take into account air resistance, also known as drag. Drag is basically the force that acts on a moving object while falling. For example, a parachute exploits this by having a big surface so the air can match its size and slow it down. After this, we also need to consider the subject's weight. Now, we don't really know SMG4 and SMG3's weight, however, we do know Mario's canonical weight. And no, it's not infinity. Mario weighs 50 kilograms, and considering that all the characters fall at the same speed, it means that they'll have around a similar body weight. After this, we also need to add the initial height that Mario fell. The height is 1080 pixels due to the screen being filled, and to convert that into meters, there must be an element to refer to for the height. That's of course, Mario. Mario in the scene is 44 pixels tall, and considering that Mario's canonical height is 155 centimeters, or 5'1", we can divide the height, aka 1084 pixels, by 44 and then multiply that by Mario's canonical height. The result? An initial fall of 38 meters. That, if we also take into account air resistance, gives us a fall of 7,658 meters. Now, why is this important? Well, because the Eldritch Goo has a weakness against light. You see, and It's Gotta Be Perfect, the demon keyboard created the Eldritch Goo in SMG4's room. Before he bought the demon keyboard, his room had the lights on. However, after SMG4 bought the demon keyboard, his lights were turned off and the Eldritch Screw took over the castle. Later, when Mario, Meggy, and SMG3 went in, what did they find? The lights turned off, and the castle taken over completely by the Eldritch Screw. To prove my point even further, in the deep caverns where the Eldritch Screw currently resides, it has expanded a lot compared to when it was on the surface. Why? Because in the caverns, no light can pass through due to it being extremely deep, and that helped the Eldritch Screw take over the caverns. In addition to that, the Eldritch Screw is trying to expand towards the surface as seen through the freefall scene of Let's Go Visit Peach. And this explains what this big mouth that sits on the surface is exactly. This thing is actually protecting the Eldritch Screw and trying to block light from coming to prevent the goo from expanding. Now let's look over to its effects. As stated by Meggy, the effects of the goo are dangerous, and if someone is in contact with it for too much time, it will take over their bodies, transforming them into a monster. This is obviously proving with the existence of Malice transforming Princess Peach. Now, sure, Peach was sort of a monster even before the transformation took place, but I do assure you there's a stark contrast between the two forms. And that, my dear viewers, is their smashability. Also due to the fact that she has no control over her mind at the moment, but that's not as important. The Eldritch Goo, from what I can find, must control Peach's body, hence why she looks so... soulless. To be completely honest, the goo has a similar role to Gloom from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, an almost indestructible substance that tries to cause destruction to everything in its path. Hell, the biggest difference between the two I could find was that Gloom comes from an evil Gerudo King, while the Eldritch Goo comes from an evil keyboard bought by sus websites. So where does this all go to culminate in? Well, my theory is that the Eldritch Goo will expand in the underground of the Mushroom Kingdom, slowly growing in mass until it is able to rise to the surface and wreak havoc onto the residents, making SMG4 have to face his gross negligence and have to right his wrongs. But hey, that's just a theory. An SMG4 theory. Thanks for watching. Plum!
Phew, that took a while. Hope my computer isn't exploding. Anyways, NoneProGB here. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like more of those weird, wacky, and experimental theories, be sure to subscribe. It helps out a lot. Alright, see ya.